Israel says it is taking steps to increase the flow of aid into the Gaza Strip through the port of Ashdod. But tons of supplies have piled up on the Gaza side of Israeli-controlled border crossings. The UN says it is unable to collect them for distribution as Israeli military operations against Hamas make it too dangerous to move around.
For Al-Taluli family, daily life is a struggle against hunger and a worsening sanitation crisis. Personal hygiene is not something they can afford.
There's no soap, no detergent, nothing. I mean, the price of soap, even if it is available in the Gaza Strip, we can't afford it. I don't have money to buy soap.
They live in a refugee camp in central Gaza. Here, lack of sufficient toilets, clean water, and a working sewage system are threatening everyone's health.
I don't have money to buy food, let alone buy a bottle of shampoo or soap. I have lice in my hair due to lack of soap. I'm an adult woman. An adult woman brushes her hair and lice come out of it. Why? Because we don't have the supplies we need. No one takes care of us.
Despite mounting international pressure on Israel, the delivery of aid into Gaza is still far short of what is required. Israel says it has made efforts to ensure UN agencies can make deliveries and blames the UN for the failure.
There are 14,000 pallets by the UN that is stuck here and they are not collecting. So the UN decided not to bring more trucks because they are not picking it up and distributing. So meantime, the private sector continue to work. And those trucks are private sector from Gaza that is ordering, importing goods into Gaza and distributing.
But the UN says active fighting and attacks from militia groups leave aid convoys vulnerable.
Aid is being dropped off from the Israeli side. It is being left in an area, and then we and some private sector entities are also picking up the aid. The trucks that, the UN trucks that are getting, are picking up aid are doing it often at great cost because they are being either looted or attacked.
As Israeli forces continue their fight against Hamas, a lack of administration in Gaza has created widespread lawlessness. The attempt to transport aid by sea has also not been successful. The US-built pier facilitating the entry of aid was marred by challenges and is now expected to be permanently dismantled. But these explanations don't help people like the Al-Taluli family. For them, delays in aid mean one thing: continued suffering.
Now let's bring in ARA Damon. She founded the International Network for Aid, Relief and Assistance in ARA and joins us from Istanbul. ARA, we just saw the Al-Taluli family situation there in Gaza. How common is this scenario there?
Well, I was just in Gaza about 10 days ago, and I can tell you that what you've seen there is widespread. It is basically what you see everywhere, and you actually end up seeing a lot worse than that. In a certain bizarre kind of dark way, if you have a tent, you're considered to be luckier than others, because what you also see is people squatting on top of what was the rubble of their homes. Very, very few people actually have access to proper toilet. You see open sewage running everywhere. There is a severe lack of clean drinking water. There is no ability to shower or bathe yourself, and it is absolutely impossible to get supplies in. You heard in that report that you aired there from the Israeli spokesperson putting the blame on, UN organizations for not going to pick up. Well, that's not exactly the whole full picture, especially since Israel continues to abdicate its responsibilities towards ensuring the safe delivery of humanitarian assistance to a population that needs it the most. And then you have, of course, the mental toll of all of this with the constant displacement, the drones that are buzzing overhead, the constant bombings, the reality that nowhere is absolutely safe. Look, I've been in war zones for more than 20 years right now, and I have never seen anything the likes of which I saw in Gaza.
Now, with the looters running riot, Hamas intercepting aid convoys, and soaring prices and shortages, how does your organization, ARA, ensure aid reaches those most in need?
Well, that's the problem. And let me explain a little bit more of the dynamics on the ground. That whole Hamas is intercepting aid convoys narrative is not entirely what you see that is actually prevalent in Gaza. What is actually prevalent in Gaza right now, what is actually preventing aid from being picked up from where the Israelis are dropping it off, is criminal gangs and looters. And a lot of it centers around cigarette smuggling. And it happens on certain specific chunks of road that are chunks of road that we can only cross with Israeli approval. They're in something of a no man's land, areas that are not populated or currently inhabited, but have, a number of burnt out buildings, bombed up buildings on them. And along these roads, you see gangs of mostly young men, some more organized than others, that are carrying batons. A couple of them have machetes. They're burning tires, and they have, whether it's, pieces of metal or tree trunks or whatever it is, that they thrust across the road to then block aid trucks coming through. Some of them are looters for looting's sake. They want to loot and then sell on the market. But a good number of this criminal activity is actually stemming from the fact that since the beginning, since October 7th, Israel has banned the entry of cigarettes to the Gaza Strip. And as such, right now, cigarette smuggling has become a cash cow. One single cigarette costs between $17 to $25. So if you're able to sneak, say, 5 cartons of cigarettes onto an aid truck, that's around a $20,000 payday. Now, these gangs are mostly only targeting aid trucks. They're not targeting the commercial trucks that are going in. And this is raising a lot of questions. But obviously, Gaza has a lot of tribal dynamics that exist between the traders and whatnot. What aid organizations have been asking for quite some time now is alternate routes to be able to use to move the aid. Because right now we are restricted to the routes that Israel permits us to use, but there are other alternatives. So to go straight back to answering your question is, how do we ensure the safe delivery of aid? We can't. And that is a very big problem, because we cannot resolve this on our own. We need these alternative routes, and we need more security from the Israelis over routes which are under their control.
Now, there's other problems as well. Can you tell us more on the internal challenges within UN agencies? We have heard about turf wars and contract wrangling. How does that affect your work?
Look, we are a small organization. We stay well out of anything it is that, you may or may not have heard about. Look, I went to a number of the coordination meetings there. There did not seem to be any sort of internal turf war, and that sort of defies logic to a certain degree, because there is so much need just about everywhere that there is absolutely no need for that sort of a dynamic to exist. And actually, my own personal experience, quite to the contrary, has been that various organizations are quite willing to cooperate on the ground. Look, as I was saying, we're a fairly small organization, and we rely on the support of other organizations to be able to do what we need to get done. But we're also very hyper-focused on serving the communities that need the services that we're providing, that range from running, psychosocial activities for children to trying to provide things like sanitary pads, baby diapers, baby milk when we're able to get it in. And ensuring that, we're getting fresh vegetables to communities, because what we're having to do right now as aid organizations is, because the aid itself is not getting in, but in the South, for example, commercial trucks are, we are then able to purchase vegetables off the market and then distribute that to the families that are in need.
Thank you very much there. ARA Damon from ARA. Joining us now from Jerusalem is Shana Lowe from the Norwegian Refugee Council. Shana, first of all, can you tell us a bit more about the situation with aid distribution at the moment? And is there still a log jam, or is any aid reaching people in Gaza right now?
Very little aid is reaching people in Gaza at the current moment. We ourselves, as the Norwegian Refugee Council, have not received aid to our warehouses in over 2 months. Since May 3rd. And so we are struggling to provide whatever assistance we can with the limited materials we have. There are a plethora of challenges for us to be able to access the aid that we have. some of which has entered the Gaza Strip, but we are unable to access because of security issues, some of which is still waiting in pipelines outside of Gaza, waiting to enter. But what we desperately need is a cessation of hostilities so that we can safely access our aid and safely distribute it to people who are in need throughout all of Gaza. Right now, there just aren't conditions that make distributing aid possible for so many organizations, including NRC.
Now, the UN says famine is spreading throughout Gaza. What more can you tell us?
Well, what we're hearing from our staff is that they themselves are struggling to find basic food on the market, that prices remain high. There still is a liquidity crisis where people do not have cash. And because of the great delays in getting in aid and then aid agencies being able to access and safely distribute that aid, because of those delays, oftentimes food, some of which is expiring because of the fact that it's waiting too long to get in. It's incredibly hot right now in Gaza, and so food is spoiling much quicker than in cooler nations. And so it is not at all surprising that more and more people are continuing to go hungry each and every day.
Now, we've heard in that report that people cannot afford basic hygiene items like soap or shampoo. Are there any efforts to improve access to that kind of material?
NRC has been providing hygiene kits and which are, as indicated in the report, in great supply because people are in desperate need, particularly as more and more trash and sewage builds up in Gaza. The conditions are just completely unsanitary. And so we are continuing to provide what assistance we can for hygiene kits. But of course, more aid needs to be getting through. And not only does it need to be getting through these crossings, but as I already said, it needs to be able to reach people. That means we need streets that are safe, that are secure, that are passable. We need police officers who are accompanying that aid to make sure that it is not looted and safely arrives at its destination, to not be targeted, as we've seen by Israeli forces, which has created increased lawlessness on the ground, making it more and more difficult for humanitarians to operate.
Shine, hello there, spokeswoman for the Norwegian Refugee Council in Jerusalem. Thank you very much, Shina.
Thank you.